I'm Dobber.
And I'm Cammie, and we are Oceans of Slumber, and you're watching METALPATHS TV. So far, so good. It's been very smooth, very engaging and energetic. We've had quite a few of the songs kind of resonate with people in different crowds. I know this road has had kind of a tremendous effect and level of feedback live. So overall, while this is probably our biggest tour, or it is our biggest and longest tour, I think everything's going as good as we could hope.
No. Yeah. We're not doing anything unnatural for us, so it's kind of like creating in this way. It's kind of like breathing for us. So when that stuff happens, it's awesome. You know, we like the criticism is good, and we enjoy that, but it also doesn't have a whole lot of bearing on our outlook or anything else, because we're just doing what we do as a band, and we're going to keep doing that, and wherever that takes us.
So I guess I grew up with a musical family. My dad was a local musician and choir director, and that's how he met my mom, who was in the choir. So our household had a lot of music just in our daily routine and daily lives that I didn't really think twice about how not normal it was. I grew up being sang to and encouraged to sing and being a very loud child, so it sort of, I guess, grew organically. And then growing up around instruments and kind of training an ear naturally, but not until I was older, like high school, college, then I kind of got into choir myself on a performance level, and that sort of toned in, I guess, different inflections and different things about my range and projecting, but I wouldn't say I haven't really done anything privately or formally when it comes to singing. My parents love sort of jazz and old school, and he was a, I would say, forefront synth user and keyboard player, so it was a lot of sort of not mainstream things. And then as I got older and kind of got out and got around, it was sort of a light introduction to things like rock and sort of like alternative vocals. Definitely, I love Bach and Pantera, and we actually got to meet her next year, and we're still swooning about that. Her voice is incredible, and her sort of contribution to female-fronted artists in this genre now is, I always kind of joke I wouldn't exist if, or I would exist, but this band and my role in it wouldn't exist hadn't it been for sort of her early work at the Gathering and is it Soundgarden? I remember the song that I like when we sing at the megaphone.
Bach is kind of like the god of music. He's pretty much, there's Bach and there's everybody else. So being that he created a system out of a new instrument, and that he was so formative in like the writing and learning of, let's say, the Well-Tempered Clavier 1 and 2 books are probably like the most extensive keyboard manuals in the world. So by that, I define classical music as being like the utmost highest art in music and what the background of the band, musician-wise. Life, because life is awful and depressing, and which brings hope, and that's a good thing. But you only have hope out of those dark spots. And Pantera because we're from the South and we grew up with all of that. So there's that bluesy, swampy kind of bayou vibe that we have throughout the South of the United States. And the culmination of those things kind of make for an interesting listening experience, and for us, mainly like interpretation. Mm-hmm. And so music it's all interpretations from what we hear and grown from. And that statement on that page is pretty old, but it was like the mission statement of us as a band whenever we started. And saying that no limits to what we do and no limits to the influences from outside of music that would fuel us. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, I love the relationships that are everywhere. Like, I think people live for other people and they kind of forget that, and it's that connection and those relationships that are all that make up your existence and your outlook, because without, that feedback from other people, mm-hmm. what do you know that you are or aren't? And I love expanding out, and I love exploring the depths of that and the depths of the human experience and the spectrum of the human experience. It's like there's so much to be gained from the details, and in those details sometimes we find cracks that very easily
sometimes, yeah, most of the time,
lead to, there's plenty that naturally occurs that is not happy and not jovial and not always like something, fun seeking. A lot of times there, right next to it, is something, full of despair, full of sorrow, full of woeful things that are
self-inflicted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's like part of the human complex is doors and secret doors, and that we all have these and we all close these doors, and by a lack of communication with each other we're not able to express ourselves or be open. And then so when you have love, which is part of what we're all looking for, mm-hmm. you also find so much despair because you never know somebody truly, like you never can. And if you get to a point of communication between each other as human beings, then maybe we have a fighting chance of finding something like more stable and more cohesive, but we don't, and it generally doesn't happen. And sometimes you luck out and you find that, most of the times you don't. So life, love, and despair is pretty much like the sequence of it. The thing is like that's all amazing too, the despair and the hope and the loss of and all that. It's amazing because life is absolutely wonderful. When I said earlier that it's terrible, and that's also a benefit of being alive. So the option is not being alive, and it's not.
It's neutral, yeah. I mean, the dualities are what make each side glow in its own way. It's sort of been relayed to me. It's like the seasons. Like when you get to live somewhere that distinctly have the seasons, like it brings out something different within yourself to see life differently, and it's an introspective sort of thing of how you move through something as tangible as just the weather, mm-hmm. let alone if you're next to someone who's like this versus someone like that. It's like you are this ever-evolving, ever-reacting creature, and those dualities are like magnificent, like amazing to observe and explore and pull at all the pieces, not just the ones that everyone wants to go to, and it's like, I want to feel good, I want to have a good time. It's like, let's have catharsis for those that aren't necessarily in mm-hmm. a happy time or a happy place, because that's everywhere too. So.
It would be, throughout the band, there are constants in our rotation that are between all of us that we share, and that's what makes the band click so well. Mm-hmm. And we all grew up with, acid bath and typo negative, because we're from the 90s, early 90s kids. Old Sepultura, Pantera, there's things like that we could listen to, right? Crowbar, all this stuff. And then the outside influences would be astronomical, everything from Ulver to Neurosis to Max Richter into Agnes Obel. A lot of amazing, like Northerners, Rebecca Karagiannidis, Anna Broom, things like that are like folk inspired, but also I'd say more soul stirring. We kind of all, when we're in the vehicle, like driving around for tours and stuff, we put on a pretty vast spectrum. Some guys like Dream Theater and bands like that a lot in their personal time, but when we're all together, we don't listen to a whole lot of that. We go through phases that are, because make no mistake, there's an absolute heavy metal heart to what we are, and so we listen to lots of Dio and Rainbow and Manowar and bands like that. And to me, those are the only fun types of music that are allowed in my life. Like I don't like goofy, silly shit. I don't like Tenacious D and bands like that. Like for me, it's music and what influences me, and ultimately what influences this band is not a joke. And there's no time for silly. Silly's a joke. Something silly, something you can laugh at, something your friend can be. But when it comes to art, there's no room for it. So, Crippled Black Phoenix, Evergrey, bands like that, Anathema, of course. Anathema is absolutely fucking top of the top. Annika,
41 Sons.
bands that actually come through here a lot, Antimatter, people that have, it's a happiness, because the type of music that we listen to and play translates so well to what I have seen through my life as being accepted widely here in, let's say, in Spain or South America. And it seems like there's a bigger heart for emotional value and a deeper soul and a deeper head, So people want that, they want to feel that. And so the music I listen to and that we mostly listen to together is all that same feel. So it makes for a lot of moody nights. It makes for a lot of not talking in the band, but everybody kind of breathing as one, and we're taking it all in. So, it's not, you can say it sounds cliche, but it's not, because most bands don't do that. Most bands put their earbuds in, and they listen to their own shit, and there's no family dinner happening. And so while we're in the band, there's a family dinner happening. It's all like, everybody get in, we can talk, we can discuss politics, life, existential ideas, some outwardly metaphysical ideas that we have no idea how to construct or break down. But then we listen to records and we try to figure out why something is so widely accepted, why something in the Caspian and God is an astronaut and bands like that, and Sigur Rós, like we take from all these influences. But sadly, you can't drive around and listen to classical music because the dynamic range is too much. You'd have to turn the volume so loud that you can't. There's so many spots and the intricacies in it, and but we do, we pass out music between each other, and so it's like that. Where some guys are heavily into bands like Soilwork and Older Than Flames and Dark Tranquillity, Ceremonial Oath, stuff like that. I grew up with an entirely crazy background, which was from classical music to old school country and like ultra satanic death metal and black metal. I did that for years, and I also played grindcore for a great many years, and it's pretty extensively. And my old band is a band called Insect Warfare. Insect Warfare is kind of bigger in the grindcore world, and so I have a split personality to where, I'm not a grindcore person as far as an anarchist, and I listen to that music, but I absolutely love the spirit and the commitment of that, and so I would say that a lot of that type of music we listen to also, and what it gives is there's a violent opposition that should exist, and in that type of music it does, and I enjoy the strife and the kind of caustic environment that is for what it is. Now living that way, absolutely not, I can't do that, but so we go from punk to later era romantic classical, Russians and things, to Pat Metheny and Alan Holdsworth, and on into like crazier avant-garde jazz and electronic music. So too much, too many bands. Listen to Leprous. There you go.
Yeah. I've definitely been on a big kick with Chelsea Wolfe, Susan Sunflor. Love Agnes Opal. I guess I kind of get into these strong female-fronted, more simplistic sort of arrangements, and I think they're like just the most divine thing, and they suck you in to, you know, quite a bit of emotional anguish. Rebecca Kiyojor,
Yeah.
I really like her as well. So I would say in my alone time, that's probably what I gravitate to more so. But then I'm obsessed with the Agents of Oblivion's Innsmouth album. Probably like a daily one, and then Evergrey for sure. Alter Bridge, like if I'm going to attempt to function that day and move about. And then,
You absolutely can't forget your craziness for Catatonia, though.
oh god, I'm so obsessed right now.
Yeah, I have to.
Their newest album is all. I don't. I think before we left for tour, it's like, can't you listen to anything?
Yeah.
Every vehicle I got in it was, you know, comes in Bluetooth and it's on. Because Catatonia just destroys me. Yeah.
It's a beautiful record, the new one. It's different, but
Yeah, it's such a landscape.
it's a
that
little more
takes you
accessible,
through.
I think. And I think that's what makes it, you know, hopefully it's the thing that hits their stride. Because with Catatonia, there's also like Soen, the band from Finland.
Mhm.
And it's like that same kind of spot. And Soen started getting a little bit bigger last year, which is awesome. It's what we need. We need more of that. But Catatonia is something I have to, between her and our other guitar player, it's, you know, let's put that on, let's put that on. It's like, Jesus, you know, other stuff to listen to. I mean, yes, it's a good record, of course.
I really like 40 Watt Sun too, and then their acoustic doings. But that's something like, it's sort of like
Rich.
really strong medicine, or
Yeah.
like NyQuil. It's like, take it if you need it. Don't just, you know, it's not for leisurely listening.
Well, they've got that perfect spot. It's like with, you know, I Hate God from New Orleans. They had a record called Take As Needed for Pain. And 40 Watt Sun is like the epitome of that.
Yeah.
Which you, if you absolutely want to destroy yourself and lay in bed all day and sit in the dark room,
Yeah.
contemplate everything you've ever screwed up in your life or whoever you have.
Oh,
Then you put Patrick Walker in your ears and you're like, Jesus.
I melt to my bed and.
But then you're like, I don't have it as bad as him.
Yeah.
So as long as I don't turn out like that, like shit, like what is he channeling to make this god awful soul tearing music?
That's usually where you'll find me by myself. And between that spectrum, it doesn't deviate too much. I think about it, but
Well, I'll say that knowing her, she and I were really close friends, and whenever she's going through some crazy, ridiculous thing, she's calling me about a business thing or, you know, whatever, just calling to check in or see what's happening. And I can hear it in her voice, and I know she's super upset, and I'm all like, are you fucking listening to Chelsea Wolfe again? Like, I'm like, stop, you have to stop listening to this woman, like she gets inside of you, and it's like, no good.
it's
And
like,
she's like, I can't help it.
call back later then.
Don't play. I mean, she's like crying on the phone,
Oh,
and like there's nothing.
She takes me to
kitchen's
such
dirty,
a
you
dark
know?
place.
Clean your dishes. Like it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to cry about it. And then she's like,
She told me not to move.
yeah. I mean, our plan is absolutely wider audience. Everything that we can stretch as far as we can with this. Only because we want the connection with that. You know, we don't. Yeah, I look at bigger, like more mainstream metal bands, like with the Five Finger Death Punch and bands like that, to where I see that they're kind of playing a quarter game, to where they're just playing to the angst of what a crowd is. And for us, I watched an old video. I'm a huge Anathema fan. I watched them play at Increval in Portugal or Spain, and they were playing an old song called "One Last Goodbye," and it's like this whole auditorium, and they get to a part and like the whole crowd singing the whole song. It's getting to a level to where it's like that. It's to where you're speaking to a group, unknowingly you are representing them and their feelings for stuff, and it's maybe in a way that they can't organize, or maybe in a way that they can't do, you know. That's what I want for this band. I mean, that's what I'm shooting for, and I've been taking care of and leading the way for what we're doing so far, and that's what I want for this. And I want that Steven Wilson level of intimacy. I want those type of crowds because I want people that come and shut up and listen to music so we can have this conversation between the two of us. I also know how special of a vocalist she is in this type of music too, and so it's my thing to see that these guys succeed, and myself included, but as a whole. But I want all of us to do very well. But I also know that there are elements of it that should be out and do more, and it's the same thing with Cammie being in. I never understood why there was a lack of the inclusion of things like this, like a singer like her or a type of vocalist. And I think it's probably going to spawn more of this. I think that a lot of people will start looking into more jazz, blues based singers, which they should, because the opinion that I've had all forever on this, and the reason why I listen to so much of this music, I mean, I listen to a lot of old R&B and soul and stuff, is that it's just doom metal without heavy guitars. Like, all they sing about is the most god-awful shit in the world. It's about all the tragedies in life and everything that they go through. It's just set to a non-distorted background. And so if you can imagine putting Al Green or Marvin Gaye to a heavier band, it would be spectacular. You listen to a song like "Simply Beautiful" by Al Green, and you're like, oh, like the cadence of this song, the type of music that this song is, like this could be a mid-paced metal song. And if you had a vocal delivery like that in metal, you would probably blow everybody's freaking mind. So what I do see in 5-10 years is I see if we play our music the way that we can, if we write the way that we do, and we can keep listeners engaged and wanting to be involved with this, then I think that we'll be where we want to be in the best way possible. I think that we'll be in front of the crowd that we want, and they'll be in front of the band that they want, and there will be, just another band that's, falling into that spot, a place they can go, a refuge, So.
Thank you. For me, I think one of the most exciting things that I want to get to for us is incorporating more instruments. We have multiple multi-instrumentalists and within the band as it is now that I myself have tried to take on accomplishing being proficient in cello, and it's very exciting, very fun, but even on the side of things that are not necessarily take as much like study, like the theremin and what was the circle one with the
water foam?
A water foam, like these real, because I feel like everything's made with like computers and stuff now, but that there's these crazy little instruments that make these mad sounds. I think to have this whole spread on stage with us and be able to just move and do things like real, like there, I think is something I want to achieve and get to, because it's I don't know, it's really neat to me. It's really exciting.
You're around a lot of inspiration for that. That's why
you mean not only for recording, but on stage?
Yeah, for stage.
Yeah.
I feel like recording, not that it's easier there, but it's like you're all there, but like on stage, because then I think when a band moves and shifts into other instruments, like it's almost like it's a new band, and then there's completely different dynamics. And just to see people move and then maybe even know they could do that, and it's like, what is happening?
Well, it's an infectious idea. She's a bit younger than we are.
I would love to see that.
But
I would love.
Yeah.
We're all, most of us are all multi-instrumentalists, So our guitar player Anthony is an amazing guitarist, but he's a pretty good piano player. Sean, our other guitar player, is a great guitar player and a pretty good drummer and hand drum person. I'm a classical pianist. I'm the drummer in the band. I'm also a very proficient guitar player because I've been playing guitar for 25 years. And
that's why you love Bach.
oh, of course. And but I also play, you know, brass and all kinds of stuff, and I do orchestral percussion, and it's infectious because she gets to see an older school group and mentality work in that way, and it's absolutely amazing. It's awesome to see that because she plays guitar also. She sends demos to.
Secret.
She sends
Secret
demos.
Now we
to-
know.
So she plays guitar, and she's been a good friend of mine as a master cellist, a Tchaikovsky competition winner, and Rostropovich's finest student, who was the greatest cellist to ever live that we have known, other than Jacqueline Dupree. And he's a friend of mine in Houston, and I was saying that the timbre of her voice, you know, her vocal range, and the sound of it would be emulated well in the cello. And so I was like, I think maybe you should look into some cello stuff, and I showed her some cello music. And of course, she was like, oh my God, like,
I'm crazy.
I didn't know how this would work. And then there's other women that are really good at it. There's the girls in women in 2 Foot Yard. It was Carla Kildstedt, plays for a band called Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. And she's also Tom Waits' violinist. And she sings and plays violin, but she has a master's in each from Juilliard or from Berkeley. And when you, being a female in this thing, it's so much harder, and there's so much more stuff to what you're having to do to kind of differentiate or stand out in what we're doing. And so it's amazing when you come across like spectacular talents, and then people attach so much to it because it's female, which you know, we're not ever going to have equality in this, which is fine, because it's nice when you ladies completely stand out, because you do, and you should, you know. You're the top of the food chain for most of it. And so I would show her things like that, because my influences are pretty broad-reaching. And I would show her 2 Foot Yard, which is Carla Kildstedt singing, playing violin, her cellist friend from Berkeley, who plays cello and sings, and then a multi-instrumentalist drummer that plays drums and guitar at the same time. And you see little things like that, and even though they're not super famous, they're incredibly talented and incredible songwriters. And you know, it's a doorway. Like you're trying to, it's like seeing a psychologist. That there's a way that you can't see, and they can open the door to where you can see it. There's a train of thought or an idea or something, and so, you know, if I can give inspiration to my friends, if my friends can give inspiration to me or anybody else out there, and they start seeing things a certain way. So now the whole generation of young women, young black women in America, which is another thing altogether, if they see something like this, then it's wholly inspirational. You know, they see that and they're like, oh wow, I can do this. For one, I thought it was taboo, I couldn't be involved in this. And for two, like, look at her, look what she's doing. Selling elegance and seduction versus sexual, and it's two completely different things, and add talent level to that, and good songwriting and good ability. So it's so learning to play the cello, sing, and play guitar.